Guys, Dr. Cinema here. I was gonna post some other video earlier this week, but then I got a little busy, new job, and then I remembered that the new Jordan Peele movie's coming out this weekend. Just like, I'll just wait until that comes out and do a video. I mean, this was really the one movie I was really excited for this month. Yeah, Captain Marvel was there, and it wasn't bad, but see one of my previous videos, me talking about Captain Marvel, and you'll understand why I really wasn't all that excited for it. Or ended up being not that thrilled with it. That's the right word. But now we have the Jordan Peele film Us, and it is terrifyingly amazing. But of course, naturally, we're going to get the comparisons between Us and Get Out, the directorial debut from Jordan Peele 2 years ago. Now, most people would say we shouldn't really compare these two movies together since while they are a little bit similar, they are two completely different beasts. And for the most part, I can agree with that, because really there's a lot of overlapping stuff, because there's a lot of stuff between the two where it is kind of clear that a lot of people are going to side with Us a little bit more than Get Out in terms of what they prefer. But this is movie Face Off, so fuck it, let's get into it. 5 rounds, let's do this. Round 1, story. The story of Get Out is simple, really. Chris, a young photographer, is dating a white girl, Rose, and they go to see her parents during a weekend. And while there, he figures out her family is acting kind of mysterious and has some sort of secret agenda when it comes to him. And he finds out what their ultimate plan of transferring one of their relatives' consciousness into his body, and he tries to figure out a way to get out of there. Hey, I said get out. Title reference. The story of Us on the surface is very simple, I'd say. Young family goes to vacation near Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz. And while there, the group of doppelgangers known as the Tethered start rising up from secret underground tunnels and start killing off their surface versions for an ultimate goal. Now, throughout the story of Us, the end makes it clear what these people actually are and what their mission is. And at the end, it's very well done, but of course, there is a layer of mystery throughout the majority of Us, which keeps you engaged and interested. Now, with Get Out, the story going in, you feel like you know what it's going to be about, and you kind of expecting you're going to know what's going to happen, but it does subvert your expectations a little bit. And in a way, you could argue that the way it subverts those expectations is a little bit more clever and smarter than with Us, which has a little bit more of a vague message, while Get Out is a little bit more specific, but more on that in the later round. But at the end, let's give this round to Get Out. Let him have this one. Let's move on to round 2, the main character. The main character is Chris, and the main character of Us, I know the character's name, I just have no idea how to pronounce it. So I'm just going to call her by her actress's name, Lupita. So Chris and Lupita's characters are very well good defined characters. Chris is a young photographer who loves his girlfriend, certainly for sure, and is a nice guy, and he is smart, and he does try to figure out a way to figure out what exactly is going on, and he figures out a way to get out. Lupita's character is more interesting with a more mysterious past, and she is a very strong-willed character and very tough and independent. Now, the thing with horror movies is that they tend to make the final survivor of horror films, female characters. And why they do that kind of depends based on a kind of subgenre, but in this way, it makes this genre have a lot of actually really well-defined and strong female characters. It is rare, but not uncommon, to see some strong male characters be the center focus of a film. Night of the Living Dead, the original one, had an African American character, and Get Out obviously had Chris. And of course, the Evil Dead films have Bruce Campbell as Ash. So, in that sense, Chris is a little bit more unique, considering that he is the final survivor in a sense, and he's a male character. But with Lupita's character in Us, a little bit more on the traditional side, sure, but she's a lot more engaging, a lot more interesting, and trying to figure out what exactly her past is while you watch her in the present. And she makes a far more interesting case study in a sense. So, this round goes to Us. Now let's move on to round 3, supporting cast. Now for this one, this could really go either way, so don't throw insults in the comment section. So for supporting characters in Get Out, we have Rose, the girlfriend, her family, and you have Chris's friend, whose character's name I've already forgotten, and whose actor's name I've forgotten, but you know who he is once you see him. In Us, the supporting characters are mainly made up of Lupita's husband, Gabe, played by Winston Duke? Yeah, Winston Duke. And their 2 children, their characters' name being Zora and Jason. And those 2 are, and not those 2, those 3 supporting characters from Us are enjoyable characters as well. And the characters of Get Out, also very enjoyable. Now, of course, the supporting cast from Us is slightly more comedic in a sense, but it's grounded humor, so you can appreciate it and admit that if you're in the situation, that kind of stuff will probably still happen coming out of your mouth. With Get Out, the supporting cast is a little bit more traditional in a sense, with only really one comedic relief character, and the rest either being supporting or antagonists. For Us, the other characters, they're certainly good, and they serve their part, and they're enjoyable and likable. But for Get Out, there is much more of a them versus us, ironically enough, than the film Us, in a sense. And that does tie into like the other round coming up in a little bit. But in terms of supporting characters, of having more interesting this many antagonists versus this one main character, I'm going to give this one to Get Out. Now let's move on to round 4, the score of the films. Both films have solid scores, building up tension and suspense while also fitting the mood of just the individual scene as well, whether it be more relief or slightly more on the comedic side. Now the score of Get Out, again, does all of that. Now the score for Us, again, it does all that, but does something a little bit extra. The score of Us makes me feel like I'm watching an old school horror film along the lines of Halloween, in terms of the score being, in a sense, very well connected to the scene that's being played over, and in a sense, sort of iconic for that movie and for this genre. Now, of course, this movie just came out, so I don't know how iconic the movie or the score will eventually end up being. But for right now, I'm giving this round to Us. Now let's move on to the 5th and final round, the themes of the film. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the themes of Get Out, in one sense, are simple and easy to understand, but on the other hand, they also subvert your expectations. Yes, it's about racism, but more importantly, it's about Caucasian people who say that they are not racist, with one of the characters even saying he would have voted for Obama a 3rd term. But these same people also kind of like see blackness or black people as sort of rarity or a commodity that's meant to like be sought after and obtained, rather than actually seeing them as like their full flesh realized individual human people. And in that sense, that makes those kinds of people in the real world arguably just as, if not more, racist than the usual typical redneck bigot. That's a stereotypical version, not calling out all rednecks, just giving you a stereotypical picture. Moving on. The themes of Us deal with similar connections in terms of like there being a ruling party and an oppressed people, but it's less about race and more just about, in general, and historically speaking, the people who've always been on top and the people who usually get pushed to the bottom. With Us, the themes are about fear, outside fear created by the main characters or us, both from a historical standpoint, like the British coming in and taking land from the Native Americans, or just in modern day terms, like the politicians trying to find a way to control and manipulate the masses of their own country. And both of those references do have fun little Easter egg nods in the movie Us. So while in that sense it is a little bit more generalized, it does speak to a lot of problems and issues going on in the modern day. Get Out is still very relevant and will be relevant for a long time, but does have a specific aim for a particular issue and with a particular demographic. I really enjoy the movie and I appreciate it, and I love watching it. But with Us, while on the one hand it is a little bit more general and slightly more vague, it does speak to a lot more of a, I guess I'd say, spotlighted issue in terms of like what news puts spotlights on. So, in that sense, Us wins this round and it wins the movie Face Off. Again, these movies are very different pieces of cinema. But in my opinion, Us is better than Get Out. And I highly recommend you go see it. That's all I have for right now. So like, comment, subscribe, share. I'll see you guys next time.